Hello everyone, today we do a solo Grandmaster run, S.A.B.E.R with Hunter. For my subclass, I'll be using the Prismatic Hunter with Stasis Super. Here are the mods and fragments I'll be using in this video. For the kinetic, I'll be using Battle Scar. Next, I'll be using the Arc Hand Cannon with Time Payload. For the heavy, I'll be using Dragon's Breath with Catalyst. This week, I decided to go for the Hunter run, and with the subclass Prismatic and the Stasis Super. Now I did try using the Arc Blade Arc Super, and I have tested that on Warsat Champions. It wasn't that great as I hoped for. And what I mean by that, it was taking about 3 charged supers to take down a champion with a dust grenade or with the arc bolt grenade. So for me, didn't look like it was enough DPS dealing with the Warsat Champions with the super. So I did decide to switch with the Stasis Super. That's one of the reasons. There's also other reasons. But anyway, we're going to be doing the mini cheese. So I'm going to scan. I'm going to look up to this little mini building and then use the throne emote. We're going to be skipping the Warsat, and of course we will take down the champions with the adorable baby servitor champion and the overload champion. Now I will time skip this. It's basically me waiting for 1 minute and 30 seconds of my life of skipping this Warsat. After spending a couple minutes, we're gonna go up to this little mini hill and then take down the bigger champion first. Now the pulse rifle I'm using is Battle Scar. I don't have the meta pulse rifle. Unfortunately, I was trying to get it last week on Warlock, but I keep getting Hammerhead, which I didn't want. So unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to farm the weapon this season unless I have extra time or if I'm off work in the weekend. But anyway, if you don't have the Blast Pulse Rifle, then you can use Battle Scar or you can use the Raid Pulse Rifle. Now, I only need 2 more patterns for the Wish Pulse Rifle. But as I said before, I get the worst luck of getting weapons in dungeons and raids. If I don't get the weapon, it doesn't mean I can't do the solo. It just means I have to use different weapons to make it work. Now I am using this arc hand cannon with time payload. I was testing it out to see if it's worth even using it over explosive payload. I would prefer explosive payload. I do have one, a arc hand cannon with explosive payload. That is another option if you prefer a arc hand cannon with explosive payload over time payload. I was using this weapon as a test to see if it does work with overload champions efficiently, and it does work okay, very decent, not bad. A second scenario of if you don't have a hand cannon or arc with explosive payload but you have a time payload, then highly recommend to try out this weapon. So I will be going to the next section to deal with the champions and clearing down the ads. Now everyone has their own little method of dealing with this mini room. And yes, this hoverboard does make it slower when using the charge boost. During this mini phase, there will be a ton of fallen ads and visible ads, so I decided to use my super. And there will be a couple of these fallen ads that will appear from the door from the right side. So make sure you use your weapons or use your finisher to take them down. I'm just trying my best to clear as much as I can and use the dodge since we are using the strand aspect, the threaded specter. But to be honest, if I had to be super honest, I don't really like it so much. I would prefer a different strand, like maybe the boomerang hunter build over the one I'm using right now, if I have to be completely honest. And yes, I'm not really so hype for the prismatic hunter. Hear me out before you comment, because I feel like it has so much potential. And I'm talking about with the prismatic and the new subclass. I feel like the new subclass is more for PvP than for PvE, for end content. I really wish I can have the boomerang strand build mixed with the stasis. Now, wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that be a fun build with the prismatic and the boomerang strand build over the threaded specter? Now, I did get the exotic legs for the hunter. I did try it. It's okay. But to be honest, I would prefer the Knucklehead radar, because when the boss's health or any enemy's health is low, the percent of doing damage is very great. Well, since we don't have any surges and we have to rely on abilities, you know, in a looter shooter game for this season, it just makes life easier of using the Knucklehead radar. I would use the pulse rifle to take down the bigger champions. Now, another thing I could have used is I could have used a fragment to make the void weapons with volatile rounds. I could have switched for a volatile rounds build. But as I said before, I just want to try out these stasis with the prismatic just to see how it goes. It's alright. I like it for ad clear. I don't really like it for DPS for the boss. I mean, you'll see what I mean when I'm talking about later on in this video. So after we take down one of the champions, then we're going to have a mini waves of ads. I do recommend trying your best to take down the barrier over the overload champion. So now during this part, we're going to deal with overload champions. And yes, they do move a lot. So yes, recommend you use explosive payload when you're using a arc hand cannon. As I said before in this video, I was just testing it out to see if time payload was even worth using it on overload champions, because time payload is actually good for unstoppable champions. When hand cannons were unstoppable, it is really good for unstoppable champions. And I just want to test it out if it's good for overloads, but it's okay. You know, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Explosive payload would be 9 out of 10. So make sure you take down the overload champion. You can also combo it with the dragon's breath if you want to. If you have enough ammo, then just go for it. But yeah, as you guys notice, the good news is if you're consistently shooting the overload with your hand cannon and mixing with dragon's breath, the overload champion will behave and stay put. Just be careful of his arc or solar attack, which it can do a lot of damage to your guardian. If you don't like dragon's breath, you can also use Thunderlord exotic machine gun. I didn't use it so much for this video. I decided for dragon's breath because the Stasis super for DPS at the final boss wasn't so great as I hoped for. And I had a feeling at the boss fight that we're going to do a trade-off, and thought maybe dragon's breath would be the better exotic in case of worse scenarios that could happen. Usually if the super is not strong enough, then you just go for the strong weapon to deal with the final boss. So now we're going to go for the next phase. Now the next phase is we have to break this arc charge tube. You know, the ones that we see from Presage. Once we do break it, there will be 4 explosive shanks and a bunch of adds and invisible fallens that will push and try to melee you. If you are not fast enough to take them down, they will either try to melee you or just go out of the door. And then you'll pretty much will have to find them. Usually they are in the middle and sometimes they are near at the door, the open door. So try your best to take them down as soon as possible. Another thing what I should have done is use Dragon's Breath at the invisible door right away and then use my super the second. But because I was worried about the explosive shanks, because they usually push very aggressively into the tunnel, I want to use my super first and then use Dragon's Breath. But anyway, it's up to you of which methods you prefer. So if you want to clear down the adds, just shoot the invisible door from the right and then use your super. There is also another method that I could have done which I didn't want to do because I felt like my super wasn't strong enough to deal with the 2 Overload Champions spawn. So you can actually go all the way from the back door and 2 Overload Champions will spawn in. You can use your super and Dragon's Breath and then clear down the adds. I felt like it wasn't good enough for me to do that method. Maybe on Warlock will be better. But I haven't tested out on Warlock yet, but I'm pretty sure it would work. If I have to be super honest, not thinking about it and visualizing the gameplay in my mind at the moment, it would work very efficiently compared to for the subclass I'm using. So during this method, if you have Dragon's Breath, you can use it. Sometimes there's this mini invisible wall or the rail that gets in the way of doing DPS at the champion. So explosive payload would be a better efficient way, especially for long distance like this. Now I am using the arc bolt. I'm using a fragment with jolt. That way I can do more damage dealing with the Overlord champions. Because it was a bit too far distance for this hand cannon, I had to go for a little close-up. I had to move forward and do DPS at the Overlord Champions and then use Dragon's Breath. Quickly take them down as soon as possible. Now another thing I could have done is use my Transcendence. I totally forgot about the mini super. But you can also use that to do DPS dealing with the Overlord champions. But yeah, the Overlord champions are a bit tanky, but because we have to spam our abilities to make it more efficient in DPS for this season, it looks like that would be the method for this season instead of using weapons. I mean, it really irritates me a bit that I had to rely on abilities and weapons. It is absolutely ridiculous, but hey, I mean, that's what the game wants. So if you want to go for a ability build, then by all means you can go for it. I mean, this season is a bit disappointing for me, especially the episodes. And the episodes feel like a replacement of seasons. And I knew about this a month ago. I have told people about it, but no one believed me. They thought maybe I was just making it up or over-exaggerating. But this season, or the episodes, are going to be longer than the actual season from previous. Isn't that fantastic? There will be 2 explosive shanks, well, sniper shanks. So I did use a rocket to take them down. So this is going to be the heavy orb method. There are many ways to deal with the heavy orb method. And my most favorite of dealing with the orb is the Titan over a Hunter and Warlock. But since we're going to go on Hunter, there's ways where you can turn invisible. There's ways where you do the double jump. with the Hunter, but I tried that, didn't work out too much. And then there's ways you can slide and then use your arc bolt and then have the invisibility fragment for the prismatic subclass, so which I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna slide, quickly throw a arc bolt as fast as you can. If you don't, the explosive shank behind you will one-shot you. So that's the thing about this method, especially for the prismatic. You have to quickly throw the arc bolt and make sure you have the void aspect for the prismatic hunter. That way when you throw your grenade, or of course melee, but you can't really melee when you're using the heavy orb, you can turn invisible for a couple of seconds. I would say around 6 seconds, good enough. And then just go and grab go and dunk the heavy orb. Now, if you are still having trouble with the heavy orb for the hunter, you can go for strand and then you can use the shackle. Or you could just turn invisible and then just go on your way for the invisible heavy orb build. That's for the hunter. I mean, the warlock and titan is different. But anyway, for this mini stage, so I quickly want to take down the barrier champion as fast as I can. Because once you take down the champion, now we're going to have another overload champion that would appear. Well, a couple. And if I had my super, I would definitely use my super right now. But unfortunately, because I didn't have my super, which is sad, I wasn't able to take down overload champions fast enough, but it doesn't really matter too much. You do want to lure this first overload champion. Just be aware of the solar attack, because the solar attack can hurt your guardian pretty bad. So you can use a mixture of Dragon's Breath and then the hand cannon. And then once you take down the overload champion, the first one, they can deal with the other two. Just be aware if there are snipers, shanks, then try your best to take them down as soon as possible. There will be a mini infinite adds of these fallens, about 3 of them, or the wrath. So I'm using the emo to see where are the invisible fallens, where are the snipers if I took them down, to see where they are and where the overload champions are so I can take them down. I did see my super was near and my prismatic. So right now I'm going to use my super right away for my prismatic grenade. And then quickly try your best to take down the fallen overload champions as soon as you can. At least one of them. If you could take at least one of them, then you're good to go. If you could take both of them, then you know what? Awesome. Now you can make your way to the next area. Could have used my Transcendent with the combo of the Stasis super. So that's also another method if you want to go for that. If you want to take down the 2 overload champions way more quicker. But as I said in my videos, this season I'm going to play passive. I don't want to do speedruns or, play aggressively for this season. Now, if I do have to play aggressively, if I have no choice, then I will. But for this GM, I see no reason of playing aggressive. So I'm definitely going to play passive, take my time. And we are going for the platinum rank, so there's really nothing to be worried at all. This is the area where things can be complicated. I would prefer to have my super right away. So try your best to use your rocket and take down the snipers. Another method that used to work, it doesn't work anymore, is I used to go back all the way back to the mini room. So the barrier champions can, well, so the baby adorable servitor champion can stop immuning the fallen snipers. But unfortunately, they block the other room. So now I can't do that method anymore. I used to do it on my old GM runs, but I can't do that anymore, unfortunately. I guess they switched it. Another thing I do like to talk about is make sure you take down the barrier champion as soon as possible, because the worst scenario that could happen to you, and it happened to me, if you don't believe me, just go to my old Titan Saber videos. You will see the barrier champion giving immune to the 3 overload champions and the snipers. And let me just tell you, it was extremely frustrating, terrifying, and it took so much time for me to take them down. And this was when I was on a Titan a couple seasons ago, and the barrier champion decided to just move and immune all the 3 overload champions. It was horrifying. And ever since that happened, I never ever want that to happen again. So I always take down the barrier champion. And yes, I did use my super. So when you do have your super, especially for the Stasis and Prismatic, make sure you use them right away so you can take down the 3 overload champions. And the reason why I would highly recommend it, and of course throw the arc bolt grenade because of the fragment for the jolt, is the hand cannon that I'm using, or the one that you're using, it will be a bit complicated of taking them one by one with just a hand cannon on 3 of them, if I have to be super honest. So make sure you have your super so you can deal with the snipers much more easier, and you can take down 2 of them at least. Try your best to take down at least 2 of them. I know sometimes 3 could be a bit tough, especially for players who are new to solo GMs. So the best you can do for the new players is take down just 2 of them, and if you can take down 2 of them, then you're good to go. The boss fight, it's gonna be so fun. So I had a glitch where I used my super. This never really happened, but for some reason this season it's happening. I used my super for the boss, and then he just goes to the bottom death pit. Either he's trolling me, or he knows that I'm gonna use my super. He wanted me to waste my super, my time, just to make me look bad in this solo GM. And I think that's option B. It just wanted me to look bad in this GM, and it worked. Thanks, boss. You're making all the guardians make me look bad. Because I used my super, you know, at the right time, and then decided just, oh, no, I don't feel like it, Blitz. Try again without your super. So make sure you do as much DPS as you can. The boss can shoot solar sniper. That's why I put solar resilience, so at least the boss won't one-shot me. Now, back in the day, even though you put solar resilience back in the day, which I'm pretty sure no one knows, the boss can one-shot you no matter what. Even if you put double solar resilience, it doesn't matter. It will still one-shot you. Now, for this season, you could put 1 and you won't get one-shot. Now, if you are power level 2000 or 2004, then unfortunately it will one-shot you. Even if you put solar resilience, it will still one-shot you because you are negative 40 power level or negative 35 power level. Well, 38 or 35. During this phase, I was firing my super. You don't have to do this. And the reason why I did this method is I don't have enough rocket ammo. And I did see one from the right side, but I want to make sure the DPS for the second phase will be efficient. So you can farm your super on this barrier champion. For the next phase. Now I am hugging the wall from the right side because I don't want the solar sniper to two-shot me. That's the reason why I was hugging there. It's not because I want to look cool. Okay, maybe, but it's not the reason. It's because I don't want the boss to solar snipe me. This is the method where you will use your super. I did use my super a little late, so my bad. So make sure you use your super, your transcendent as well. Make sure you throw your grenade at the boss. On the boss. You don't want to throw it at the ground. It could move and you won't be able to do DPS. So I did try to throw the grenade on the boss as much as I can. That way I could do as much DPS and we can go to the next phase. Now this is the phase where I highly recommend to take down the shanks that are floating around saying hello guardian from the sky. There is going to be a couple of shank snipers. They will come out and float around above you, so I highly recommend you take down the shanks and explosive shanks as well, which they do tend to follow you. So we got one of the snipers, and I did miss one sniper. So there is one sniper that was hiding for this run. Always double check of the snipers, but for some reason for this run, usually this never happens. Maybe they did some tweaks for this run, I'm not sure, but usually all the snipers usually fly above the barrier champion and you could take all of them down. But for this footage, I was missing one sniper. Usually it's around two or three of them, and it looked like I was missing one. I usually take down all the snipers and then farm my super once again. And then go for the next phase. Now you don't have to farm your super because you're going to get your super anyway, especially dealing with the explosive shanks. I just did it just in case of scenarios. So yes, I missed one of the snipers. I could hear him and he was from the left side. Right there. I didn't even see him, by the way. It was really bizarre that this sniper was floating around and I did not see him at all. This is optional. You can take your time dealing with the explosive shanks. You don't have to do this method. Another thing you could do is you can do DPS at the boss while taking down the explosive shanks and then quickly take him down, but I'm not going to do that for this run. So I'm going to do a mini time skip. I'm going to be focusing on taking out all the explosive shanks and then deal with the boss. So now you can take your time to do DPS at the boss. So I will do a mini time skip of me doing DPS at the boss. So during this boss fight, I actually did a trade-off. So I did use my super and then my transcendent to do DPS as much as I can at the boss fight. But the Stasis super was not strong as I hoped for. And because the super was taking too long, the sniper spawned. And then what I had to do is use my Dragon's Breath, let the rocket take down the boss, which it worked. This is one of the reasons why I was using Dragon's Breath. It was a scenario of if the super and the transcendent didn't work and it was just too slow to do DPS at the boss. Then Dragon's Breath is going to be your best friend of worst case scenarios because the rocket is still going to do DPS even when you do get bungeed. And it works. So anyway, we taken down the boss. Thank you so much for watching. comment how you feel about this GM or for this season. And I will see you next time. Bye.